Stephen King's Sleepwalkers.
What's going on, all you wildcats and vampires? Logan Myerz back here for Cinephellas.com, doing more 31 Days of Horror, and tonight I'm going to be talking about Mick Garris' film from 1992 that's written by Stephen King. I'm talking about Sleepwalkers. Yeah! The setup of the film, we had Charles Brady, played by Brian Krause, big fan of his. He was in the show Charmed. He's the new kid in town. They just moved there. And it's supposed to be in Indiana, even though all the backdrops and all the shots in the movie, there's mountains in the background. That's obviously California. It's supposed to be Indiana. Him and his mom, played by Krige, huge fan of hers. They moved to this town, and they have a weird relationship, and I don't want to say too much about that, but it's pretty creepy. Essentially, they're sleepwalkers, or like vampire cats, shapeshifters that feed on virgins, and they're trying to seek out a virgin to feed on so they can continue to do what they've been doing for the past few centuries, a long time. So it's kind of a cool premise. And they set up the love interest, Tanya, played by Mädchen, Amick. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but she was great in Twin Peaks, a bunch of other TV and movies as well. But she's the love interest of Charles in this movie. And her setup of the film is kind of funny. She's like working at an old school movie theater, which I love those old school cinemas with the big lights in the front, and the guy taking her ticket and stuff like that. Her setup in the film, she's like dancing with her Walkman from the 90s and jamming out to a song from Dirty Dancing, and she runs into Charles for the first time. That's where they meet, and it really sets up their characters throughout the rest of the film. But with this movie, I love Mick Garris. He's adapted 7 King novels into movies and TV shows. I love Mick Garris. He was the one that did the Masters of Horror series. This is definitely not one of his best ones, but it's a fun ride, I will say that. With Mick Garris, he really set like a weird atmosphere in this movie. It's kind of all over the place, and it really has a cheesiness to it, and situations that are really fucked up. But with Stephen King and Mick Garris attached to this, they're going to go to some weird places. Being Charles and Mary, they have an incestuous relationship, mother and son. They're like banging early on in the film. They're always like making out. It's just really something off about them, but they really sell this performance with the craziness that ensues throughout the film, having to do with them transforming into these vampire cats. What I will say, there's a lot of great horror cameos in this film. Introduction to the movie, we have like cops that are investigating the scene with a whole bunch of dead cats, and it's overlooking the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and that's where they filmed the movie. Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The Birds, is the intro to Sleepwalkers, same place. So it's cool seeing Mark Hamill play a cop. Throughout the film, we have Clive Barker makes a cameo, Toby Hooper. With Mick Garris being a Masters of Horror series, he has all the contacts and friends with a lot of the big names in the horror movie industries. Supporting cast, we have a young Ron Perlman. He plays a cop too. So it's cool seeing Clay from Sons of Anarchy. He playing a cop in this, really young, but goofy looking guy. In terms of the visual effects, the actual practical effects look good. The CGI in this movie looks pretty terrible. Very dated when Charles transforms into this cat-like creature. You can tell the CGI is dated and it looks really fake, not good at all. Through other scenes in the film, the practical effects look really good with the blood and gore. I think they really pulled out a lot of great practical effects in this movie that are very believable, having to do with this mother and son and them killing people and feeding on people so they can stay alive and continue to be a sleepwalker and move on to the next town. Probably one of the better scenes in the film that has to do at a cemetery. He shows his true self and comes out and tries to kill her, and she's flipping out. But you have a cop, and his cat is his sidekick. He's riding around with this cat, and we find out that with sleepwalkers, their arch nemesis is the cat. So when they see the cats, they flip out and they get out of there as quick as they can. So that really sets up the ending of the film. Sleepwalkers is definitely a great idea from Stephen King. I just don't think it was executed properly on the big screen in terms of the tone and everything. It's all over the place. It wants to be a horror movie or then a comedy, and then throw comedy and horror together. It doesn't know what it wants to do. Watching this movie a long time ago in the 90s, seeing it on TNT Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs, I remember really enjoying it, but all these years later, it definitely doesn't hold up. The CGI doesn't look as good as I remember it, and some of the performances in the movie are kind of lackluster. Brian Krause and Krige, I thought they did a pretty good job as an incestuous couple, mother and son. Mädchen, Amick, I thought she did a really great job in this movie as well as the love interest and trying to survive. But overall, just not a really great adaptation from Stephen King, and just not one of the better ones, the memorable ones from the filmography of Stephen King. So I'm going to give Mick Garris' Sleepwalkers from 1992 a 2.5 out of 5 cat hair pieces. So I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of the movie Sleepwalkers from 1992? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What did you guys think of that crazy ending? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out. My mates up here, all these wild cats. Meow. Until the next horror movie review for 31 Days of Horror. Cheers!